Are you worried? Do you have many what if thoughts? If you are identified with your mind, which is projecting itself into an imaginary future situation and creating fear, there is no way that you can cope with such a situation because it doesn't exist. It's a mental phantom. You can stop this health and life corroding insanity simply by acknowledging the present moment. Become aware of your breathing. Feel the air flowing in and out of your body. Feel your inner energy field. All that you ever have to deal with, cope with in real life, as opposed to imaginary mind projections, is this moment. Ask yourself what problem you have right now, not next year, tomorrow, or 5 minutes from now. What is wrong with this moment? You can always cope with the now, but you can never cope with the future, nor do you have to. The answer, the strength, the right action, or the right resource will be there when you need it, not before, not after. That is an excerpt from The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and that is what we're talking about today. Welcome back to the Deliberate Exchange podcast. My name's Chelsea, otherwise known as The Deliberate One. Thank you so much for listening and coming back if you've been listening before. So this episode is all about this book, obviously, and it's for anybody who has ever felt like they should read these big spiritual books that everyone talks about, but the thought of actually finishing it right now might feel impossible. Or maybe you read this book. Maybe you've wondered how to translate the words into something that actually supports you when life gets messy. As I said, the book that we're talking about today is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And for me, this book was one of those sit on the shelf until I was ready. And sometimes I'd pick it up and then put it back down again because I wasn't ready. But once I was, it truly shifted the way that I related to myself, to my stress, and of course to my healing. You don't need to read the book to get the transformation. In this episode, I'm going to distill 3 of the most powerful lessons and layering in how they connect to the nervous system, to breath work, and to the way that we move through our lives. Because there's one thing to understanding presence intellectually, like we hear it all the time, be present, be more present, the present is now, the present is a gift, etc. But it's quite another thing to practice it in your body, especially when stress responses kick in, when the pain body is activated, or when your inner critic is screaming at you. So think of this as your personal shortcut. There's juicy nuggets, there's tangible takeaways, and of course, breath-centered tools you can start using today. So the first concept that I want to go into, the first big idea, is the pain body. Tolle introduces the concept of the pain body, all of the emotional pain that we have stored that lives in our body. This is the emotional backlog that you've heard me talk about before. It is like a sleeping giant. And then when something pokes at it, like maybe it's a tone of voice or somebody shoots you a look or there's a memory that comes into your forefront, the sleeping giant wakes up and it takes over. And suddenly we're reacting not just to what's in front of us, but to the years of stored pain. Many of the women that I work with have quit drinking or they've quit numbing, and suddenly the pain body is actually louder than ever. Because the coping mechanism is gone, there's nothing muffling it. When you're reacting in a way that feels too big for the moment, it's likely that the pain body is being activated. And of course, that doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that your body is trying to discharge the old pain. Now, for me, the pain body shows up in moments that on the surface don't actually look like much, but I'll give you an example of one. My dog Macy, I love her, an Australian Shepherd, lots of energy, is a perfect example. She actually brings out the worst in me sometimes. I will get frustrated, impatient, I will yell at her, and I hate myself after for it. And she's 4.5 years old, and I always have this, I wish that she was just a better dog. I wish that she was, different. And the truth is, she's just being a dog. Maybe she's sniffing too long at something as we're walking, and I'm acting impatient because I feel like I have somewhere to be. Or she's not behaving in the way that I think, quote unquote, she should, and I'm making it mean something about me. Deep down, it connects me to feeling like I failed, like I didn't train her well enough, and the whole what if story. Like, what will people think of me? What if people will equate her behavior with me being a bad dog mom? And that ties into an old wound and story. My fear of being seen as the bad guy, part of a fawn response. This is an ingrained pattern of being the perpetual good girl, always wanting to be acceptable, never disappointing anyone. Macy isn't the problem. The trigger is mine. The pain body is mine. And a little practice that you can take with you right now is if you were to place a hand on your chest and breathe slow and deep into the belly for 1 minute, that will help to break the cycle and to signal safety to the nervous system. And then in a deeper practice, like a deeper or longer breathwork session, the pain body can actually release. You might have tremors or shaking in your body, tears, movement, all of which is creating space for new patterns. And that's one of the reasons I lead journeys with other people and, of course, for myself, because I want to give people a safe place to let that old pain move. And your body actually knows intuitively what to do. We're just not giving it an opportunity to do it. The second big idea that I want to go over is presence is power. This is a central teaching of the book. Suffering happens when we're stuck in the past or projecting into the future. I've talked about those as being, psychological time. That's how I learned at first. The past and the future are things that are concepts that are man-made. And presence is what typically breaks the cycle of that suffering that we're perpetuating. What I've found in the work that I do is that after quitting drinking, it is very common to be trapped in those loops. You're rehashing the past, you're regretting what you did, or you're fearing what's ahead. And presence then feels really impossible when your nervous system is still wired for survival. Now, the takeaway here is that presence isn't an escape from reality. It's a way of actually being with reality. When I quit drinking, my brain was obsessed with the future. What if I can't have fun anymore? What if I have no social groups? What if nobody wants to be around me? What if it means I'm, somebody with a drinking problem? What does that stigma carry? What if I'm lonely forever? My body was in fight or flight, trying to predict and control every little thing. Learning to anchor into the now, literally by noticing the floor under my feet or the breath in my chest, gave me moments of relief when literally nothing else could, and when I couldn't rely on something to pacify those thoughts like I did with alcohol. So another micro practice that you can try here when this is happening, if you're stuck in those ends of psychological time, is the 4-7-8 breath. Inhale through your nose for 4, hold at the top for 7, and then exhale out your mouth for 8 counts. This pattern slows the system and pulls you back into the present moment. Now, in a deeper activation, you might want to try an activation style breathwork journey, and it helps because presence isn't something that you think your way into. Do you know what I mean? It's when it becomes embodied. And in an activation breath, time dissolves. You're simply there with your breath, and it trains your body to know presence, not just understand it intellectually. Now, if you're stuck in fight, like anger, or flight, like anxiety, or you're freezing, like a shutdown, or you're fawning, like people pleasing, you're not in the now. Presence isn't just a mindset shift, it is a nervous system shift, and breath is the most reliable bridge that I have ever worked with. The third big idea that I want to cover here is you are not your thoughts. And I feel like this is one of those freeing lessons, but it's also one of those things that we can intellectually know, but we don't pragmatically understand it or feel it in our body. But you are not the constant chatter in your head. You are the witness. Now, after alcohol is removed from the equation, what I found is that the inner critic gets really, really loud. There's a lot of shame, there's a lot of doubt, there's a lot of comparison, and we can make it feel like truth, but truly it's just noise. The voice in your mind isn't who you are. For years, I really did think that the voice that said, you're failing, you're not enough, like anytime I would look at myself in the mirror and say like, God, I hate you, especially when I was still drinking, I thought that that was just me being realistic and truthful. Like I was trying to scare myself into capitulation or action. Learning to step back and see it as just one part of my mind and not my soul gave me freedom. And sometimes I'm able to even laugh at it if it happens to come up. But like, I gotta tell you, my chatter in my mind has significantly reduced because I practice tools like mindfulness that keep me grounded in the present moment. And so if you do find that you are kind of like in that heavy chatter place, just try noting it. When the thoughts come up, try and name it. Like I'm experiencing fear, I'm experiencing criticism or doubt. Naming it helps to create space. And then when you name it, take one slow exhale and let it go. Now, within a deeper practice, perhaps in a breathwork journey, you often hear the chatter at first. And then as the breath bypasses the thinking brain and shifts you into the limbic system, the voice quiets. It no longer has such a powerful hold. And then you're able to experience yourself without the constant critic. That embodied knowing changes literally everything. So let's bring all these things together. Now, the 3 big lessons from the Power of Now. First one, the pain body isn't all of you. It's just old pain asking to be released. And the most effective way to do that I have found, the most consistent way, is through breath work. The second is presence is always accessible. Always, always, always. Just as accessible as your breath, just as accessible as and present as your heart, even in just 30 seconds of breathing, and even 5 to 6 deep conscious breaths is enough to start changing your physiological, your emotional state. And the third is you are not your thoughts. You're the witness. Now, when you layer in nervous system work and breath work, these teachings stop being so kind of abstract and start being embodied. And this is how loops actually close, and you don't perpetually default into reactions and responses that you don't love. This is how survival patterns shift. So I thought it would also be helpful if I added in some reflection prompts for you. So you can write these down and you can kind of mull these over when you have some quiet space. But the first one is, where do I notice my pain body getting activated most often? The second, what stress response do I tend to default to? Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? And the third is, what's one breath practice I can commit to this week to anchor into the now? And you can go back and listen to the options that I gave you earlier in this episode. I assure you that you do not need hours of meditation or, some Costa Rica retreat. Presence can live in the next inhale that you take. So that's the power of now, condensed. And applied and woven in with the breath. And you don't have to grind through the book to live these lessons. You just have to practice them. Make it small, little inclusions into your everyday life. Stack it with another habit, but practice them over and over and over. And always have compassion for yourself when you forget, because you're learning something new and it takes time. Now, if this has resonated, share it with somebody who's maybe walking this path. And if you want to practice presence and nervous system shifts in a tangible way, I have my 7-day micro-regulation toolkit designed exactly for that. Small daily practices that retrain your nervous system to live in the now. I'm so grateful for you being here and listening, and for choosing your now, and for breathing with me. In the meantime, breathe it in, be deliberate, and please be good to yourself.